Right. Welcome everyone to the April 17th OpenJ9 community call. Just a reminder that we ask everyone to add their name and affiliation to the attendees list, just so we know who's been joining the calls. All right, and so we'll jump into our usual updates. First, by opening things up to the community for any conversations or questions. Given the usual list of attendees on this, I'm not surprised that there's nobody jumping out here. Does anyone on this call have suggestions for a lightning talk that they might be interested in giving? Or ones that they would be interested in hearing? All right, if you think of ideas, please add them to the agenda when you think of them, and we'll see if we can line somebody up to give them. All right. So we'll bring up the user-raised issues, and we'll take a look at what new ones have come in recently. There's an issue with Attach failing when SSH'd into the box that Peter Bain is involved in looking at. So I think we have people looking at this and helping out to get this resolved. So
seems the problem is that when you SSH in, you get a different user, and therefore you don't share a semaphore with the real user.
Interesting. Is that a matter of some standardization process we need to take them through, or are they truly different users?
According to Peter's findings so far, the semaphores go in different paths and have different names. But yeah, he'll continue to investigate, I guess.
Yeah, one of those looks like a short name for the other, so there might be some canonicalization process. There's a native crash on AIX with J9 or with OpenJ9, and I believe somebody's already started looking at that and helping out. I'm not familiar with this one. The out of memory. So this is starting to look a little bit like a compressed refs.
That's what I suspect. We had asked for some diagnostic files, but nothing's been provided so far.
This is a user-raised issue around the os.arch being reported differently on Mac. I've done some digging into the code there and made some suggestions. Hopefully the reporter is interested in helping to push that forward, and otherwise somebody will want to pick that up. The test deleting diagnostic info. I see Jason's raised that. Shelley, are you aware of that?
Sorry, say again?
Are you aware of
yes. Yeah, we have a PR that will address this, but we are in the middle of a release, so we don't want to merge any changes.
Perfect.
But for the AIX one, if people are trying to get core files, and additionally for the JDK net failure, I have Jack running grinders off of the branch that has the changes to get the core files. So if we need to run those AIX tests off that branch right now as well, we can, so that you can get the cores.
Okay.
I don't know who's working on that AIX one, but I can set them up with a grinder.
Keith has offered a suggestion there just on the basis of reading the code.
Okay. I'll maybe look at it and see what's running and see if we can run something internally.
Okay. Thank you. And then there's a performance issue here that I know a couple of people on the JIT team have been involved in looking at. Mark Studley and others. So I think at this point we've kind of run down to the ones since the previous call. So unless there's something somebody wants to call out. All right. Let's jump back to our agenda and take a look at the 014 release. So OpenJDK shipped their updates yesterday afternoon. So have we I'm reasonably confident the answer is yes, but I'll ask to be sure. Have we merged in the code into our repos into the extension repos at this point?
Yeah, so everything's merged in, and Peter has tagged OpenJ9 with an RC1 tag, and there are builds underway both at eclipse.org and at Adopt OpenJDK to build and test with those latest updates.
Is that for 8, 11, and 12?
Okay, well, that's a statement of 8. For 11, which takes a very long time to update the extensions repository. I'm sure you know, I think unfortunately our overnight attempt failed and we've kicked another one off. And that's still running.
Issues with JDK 11.
The other thing about 11 is we're expecting another level from Oracle. So even if we take the one that's there now, there's supposed to be another one.
It wasn't clear to me if they were intending to push another level or not. I know they said there were a couple of fixes that didn't make Community 11, but it wasn't clear on whether they were going to push a new level or just wait for the next quarterly update.
Okay, hopefully after we merge and run builds, we'll find out, I guess.
Has the merge of 12 started as well?
I'm not sure. Just a minute, I'll endeavour to find out. Where are we with 12, Andrew?
Apparently there's a problem with 12. We merged in the tip instead of the build. So we might have to cherry pick a few things to create the proper release branch, but apparently there's not that many things that need to be cherry picked.
Yeah, but certainly, currently we prioritize it after 11.
Okay, so we haven't started the merge yet then?
Not creating the branch that is required to produce this next release.
Okay.
So on the 8 front, which is our top priority release, I noticed the testing at CI Eclipse is going on at the moment. I think there's only 2, possibly 3 platforms left to complete. At Adopt, I've had 1 or 2 issues. I've had to restart the Windows build, 32 build, because the tests failed for what looks like a test machine setup issue. And I'm quite heavily queued on particular Windows and Mac machines at the moment because, of course, the community is trying to get the hotspot builds all out as well. But we shall keep our eye on it and get them through as fast as we can. Now, once we've verified all the RC1, presumably we'll need to, assuming there are no problems, we'll need to create the real release tag. So I'm hoping someone will be online on Slack to be able to do that when we're ready.
Yep. So at OpenJ9, everything that has completed has passed. We're still working on 1 test for Linux large heap and all the AIX testing.
Yep.
All right. Anything else we should discuss on the release at this point?
So the idea was to go ahead and create the final release tag as long as 8 looks good and not wait for 11. And then if we do find problems with 11 after the fact, we'll have to spin 14.1 to fix it if we decide to fix it. We would have to spin a 14.1 on OpenJ9.
Yeah, I think we should do that in order to be sure we can get 8 out.
Okay. Thanks for the reminder of that, Peter. All right. Any other discussions on the release?
On a related subject, not the .14 release, but where in the timeline are we looking at a JDK 13 repository for extensions? I asked because the infrastructure team has been asked for pull requests and they start getting ready to enable builds for performing JDK 13 builds.
June 13th, I think. July, no.
No, the next JDK.
June 13th.
Yeah.
And that's about the time frame that we'll have, like, the new branch, or the new repo rather. Or
So JDK 13 builds can start against the JDK repo today.
Okay.
And when OpenJDK splits the 13 branch off the JDK mainline, we'll need to update our pull request builds and nightly builds to that separate extensions repo. But we should be able to proceed with the JDK mainline branch.
So we do build JDK head every night. What we're not doing is running any of the testing because the mechanisms to run the tests don't work against JDK next.
Actually, I recall that now. We had a conversation about that a couple of days ago.
Yeah. The branch date is tracked by OpenJDK. They have a schedule, so they have a ramp down phase 1 in brackets fork for mainline on June 13th. So that's when we would expect the Java 13 repo to be created at OpenJDK, and that's when we do it for OpenJ9 as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you say June 13?
Yes. I'll stick the link into the minutes so everybody can see the schedule.
All right, thank you. We'll skip the retrospective piece as we'll take another look at that after we've completed this release. And we'll move to the general business. The first thing being an update from Adopt. Shelley, if I can hand that over to you.
Yeah, I've updated the minutes. Obviously, we're in the middle of the release activities there, so that means we've locked down the core repos. We've also paused the nightly jobs so that nothing will disturb the release builds. Couple of other updates. Right now, we're still very shy on OS X and Windows test machines, but they've been approved by the TSC, so we'll hopefully be seeing a lot more machines come online, but that will happen after the release week is finished because it's we don't have someone to work on that at the moment. We have some preliminary work done on the Adopt quality assurance piece. You may have noticed in the console output, we're now outputting the SHAs of all the test repos used. We're listing excluded test targets. And in the test results summary service, we're aggregating the results data. Eventually, this information will all go into material that will be packaged with the binaries at the releases repos. But for this release, we're just making sure we have the mechanisms in place. The Red Hat binaries are now hosted at Adopt, and there have been some website updates to point to a page for these binaries. The discussion and preparation for OpenJDK pull request testing has begun, but we will obviously wait to start rolling out some of these work after the release is finished. So for those of you who don't know, the plan is to be able to trigger testing through the adopt test mechanisms for pull requests that come into the OpenJDK project. So at the moment, the discussion is that we will have a separate Jenkins set up for this so that it doesn't interrupt our nightly and release schedule at the main server at Adopt. And then finally, for application community outreach, this is part of the mission of the project as well. We're slowly starting to reach out to different communities that we've been involved with. So one of the communities is Elasticsearch. We're using some of their functional suite for our testing at Adopt, and I've reached out to ask to get the Adopt binaries listed in their support matrix. I'm waiting on a response from their Java team. And we have an old PR to update Travis with Adopt binaries that we need to refresh so that we can get Adopt in as a choice, an option for Travis users. So we'll be looking at that next week. That's what I have. Simon, do you have anything additional?
No, in a word. Our local panic is trying to get the releases. So I've been rather focused on that for the last few days.
Okay. Thanks, Shelley. So in the discussions around moving OpenJ9 to its own GitHub organization, there's been more discussions on the contributor teams bug and starting to figure out what steps would need to be taken there to make this possible. The Eclipse community has asked for help if people are interested in helping to work on these sync scripts they use to sync the Eclipse organizations to the GitHub teams. So there may be opportunity there to help out if anybody's interested in some workaround scripting. Okay. In terms of machines, Adam, can I hand this over to you?
Sure. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to sneeze here. So for the AX machines, we have all the paperwork has gone through for the renewal. We have a new promo code that has a 1-year lease expiry. So I need to go through and recreate all the machines. I'm waiting, hopefully, for our problem with the machine number 3 to be resolved before I do that.
This says 6 machines. I thought we only had 4.
Omar has 2.
Ah.
So I'll coordinate with Charlie on redoing those ones.
Is there any chance of getting more machines? We probably use another 2 at OpenJ9. AIX is typically lagging everything else.
Yeah. Well, we have been down to 3 for the past month or so because of this machine issue, but
even with the 4, I think AIX is behind. Well, I guess Mac is in the same state. There's only 4 machines, but we have a plan to get more of those.
Right. Probably should have asked a couple weeks ago. We can see. I know we do pay for them, so there'd be some funding questions around that. But I guess I can follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, the current expire I think is May 13th, so we have a couple weeks to get those recreated.
I guess the other argument is that often we've had a machine down, so having extras would also be helpful.
Right. Yeah, we went down the OSU route. That didn't really work out. The other route would be to send a box to USB, but I don't think that's on the horizon at the moment. In terms of getting the Ansible scripts running regularly, Sam's changes have been delivered to our own repo, and that so his changes create the inventory file automatically to feed into Ansible Tower. So the next step would be to create our own wrapper for the Ansible scripts at Adopt that calls our own top level, which basically tells you what roles to run so that we don't end up running the Adopt roles that we don't care about. So that's the next step. I think we still have some vetting to do of playbooks, but I think that's an ongoing thing. In terms of disk usage, we've gone up a little bit as expected because we've now separated all the builds out. So once there's been enough activity on the new builds, I'll go and delete all the old builds, which should bring us back down to around 95. And also the 2836 PR is in review. Given that it's now Easter, I don't expect to get that until the end of the month because we've had some back and forth on changing some things with it. So I think that's about it, unless anybody has any questions.
All right, thanks, Adam. For the website review, Sue, is there anything new there?
No, nothing new. Been entirely focused on release documentation in the last week or so.
I'm just reading that we'll have someone available to look at this in July. Is that still accurate?
Yeah, that's right. We've got a university placement student starting with the right set of skills, so we'll have something set up for him to get to work on straight away.
So we do need to do some work on closing this out before then. Closing out some of the design discussions then.
Yes, we do. That we have a couple of months, right?
Yeah, they seem to go very quickly as we start to hit the summer. All right. Is there any other business that anyone wants to bring up?
I'll note that Jenkins is still failing, although I've managed to restart it every day so far. But we can't keep going like that.
Yeah, we did open an issue at Eclipse. And
yeah,
they haven't responded yet. So
I did notice, although it's raised as critical, there's other P1 through P5, and we're set at P3. I don't know if we have control over that or if it would help to change it. Do you know how that got set?
I'm not sure. I can go look at it now.
You can paste the link in here as well. That would be good.
Yeah, I only see a read only up in the P3. I can just change the critical to blocker. But I don't know if that's accurate.
So I think I could change the P1 through P5. I'm just not sure what it means or how it got set like that.
Probably default. I'm not sure. I don't think I had the option to change it when I created it.
Okay.
Any other business that we need to discuss? All right, then I guess we'll meet again April 24th. Thanks everyone for joining today.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.